Fed cut a key lending rate, and that may give a small dose of relief to a few pockets of the economy, such as money market funds. But the financial deep freeze continues to spread its chill, and the stock market has dipped nearly 200 points yesterday. Joining us now with the latest on the economic situation and also what the presidential candidates are saying and supposedly doing about it, at least proposing, is Bill Beach, who is with the Center for Data Analysis at the Heritage Foundation. Good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk first of all about where we stand right now. And yesterday we saw the Dow open higher, it dropped lower. Futures today are up again. We're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
The latest word from Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, though, is that maybe the government will invest in banks now. Is that something that may work, may not?
Well,
what do you think?
Banks need capital. Apparently, we've got a situation throughout the banking community of lack of capital. Now, why is that important? If banks don't have capital, they can't pull themselves out of this crisis, and so they need the money. Now, part of the economic plan, the rescue plan, was to put capital in, but that'll take several weeks. So certain what are called facilities have been established at the Federal Reserve to basically get that money into the banks. Capitalization now is the big call word, but apparently nothing is doing anything good for the stock market.
And the banks don't really want to play with the other banks right now, do they?
Oh, I tell you, bank lending is really at a low point. You know, the point is if banks don't lend to each other, they don't lend to us. They don't lend to businesses. They can't create the kinds of jobs, that the money, the loans will create. So we have a very serious situation, and it looks like the credit crunch, the freeze, is continuing. If you look at the stock market, it's hard to explain what's going on. It was up, it was down.
Right.
Huge institutional buyers were in there creating more liquidity in their portfolios yesterday, while people like maybe you and I are sitting on the sidelines saying we don't understand what's going on. But the bottom line is the Treasury right now is trying to put capital into the banks. When the banks have more capital, they'll be able to do more things on the loan side and also begin to help other banks. This is another problem we're having. Solvent banks unwilling to step forward and purchase banks that aren't quite really bad but aren't really functioning well, that have value in them.
All right, let's talk about what some of the presidential candidates or the presidential candidates, some of their proposals. And we have a couple graphics we're going to put up on the screen about some of the details in their plan. We saw and heard a lot about this during the debates on the other night, on Tuesday night. So here's one of the plans. And this is to when we deal with the tax cuts that are due to expire in 2010. And John McCain saying he wants to keep the cuts across the board, cut corporate rates from 35% to 25%, while Barack Obama says keep the cuts for families making under $250,000 and individuals less than $200,000.
Sure. Well, cutting the corporate tax rate makes a lot of sense from an economist standpoint. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, which means that corporations oftentimes leave the United States to do business in Ireland and other places that have low rates. It really helps the economy. We've looked at that proposal. It produces lots of jobs. What Senator Obama is saying about keeping some of the Bush tax reductions for people under $200,000 makes a lot of sense, too. His proposal actually creates about 900,000 jobs 10 years from now, an average of 600,000 jobs for every year, whereas the McCain proposal is looking at around 2.1 million additional jobs. It shows you the difference between the handles they're pulling, but both of them are good for the economy.
All right, well justified on both points there. Yeah. Now let's take a look at something when we talk about the wealthiest Americans, and this is the top 1%, those making $600,000 or more. And this is, I think, what understandably may upset the middle class a little bit here.
Sure.
When you talk about McCain's plan is to reduce their taxes by almost $50,000, whereas Barack Obama says we're going to increase those taxes by almost $100,000.
Well, these people have great capacity to pay taxes, so if the taxes go up, they'll probably end up paying them. Our concern is that they'll put those taxes on small and medium-sized businesses at a time when those businesses are A, significantly crunched because of the economy, and B, are the places we're going to look for job creation as we're coming out of this recession. So I'm a little bit skeptical, and I think Senator Obama is actually skeptical too, of putting additional taxes on people who own businesses and own the investment capital that would go into businesses. We have to be really cautious about this class of taxpayers because they are the people who now kind of run the economy. They have been successful in their lives in general. And if we're going to put taxes on them, then we're going to get a reaction from them. And the reaction we don't want is for them to withdraw from the economy to do business that isn't creating jobs. We want them to create jobs, make investments, do what they're supposed to do, and that is create economic activity. So you have to be careful with that group of people. They do pay a lot of taxes.
One more thing we want to look at before we wrap things up here quickly, and that is when we talk about the lower and the middle class, because both candidates obviously are proposing tax cuts. It's just the amount is certainly different. Barack Obama within here, and we'll quickly move through these. These are for folks making $19,000 a year or less. You can see this, and then as we move on to folks making between $37,000 and $66,000. So the difference here, both proposing tax cuts. Barack Obama's cuts a little greater than what John McCain is proposing at this point.
That's right.
Is this does this help the? Obviously, it helps these people. Does this help the economy, or is this basically just saying let's get the majority of the voters who are making this in this range?
Senator Obama is going to give a lot of people in low-income areas credits and deductions, and that'll help them a lot to spend more and so forth. What this economy needs now are reductions on the taxes, on savings, on investment capital to get the economy moving again. That part of the tax and income distribution needs to be really stimulated. Both candidates have got plans to do that. Senator McCain's plan is a little bit more aggressive than Senator Obama's, but they both recognize this one salient fact, and this is how we started this discussion this morning. We need more capital in the economy, and we need it now.
Yep. I'm Bill Beach. Thank you so very much from the Heritage Foundation. You always break it down in a way that's easy to understand. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Allison, back to you.